Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to my channel. Today was May 4th, and I don't usually talk about Star Wars on this channel. Not because I don't enjoy Star Wars. I was a big fan of that original trilogy and love the Luke Skywalker storyline and story arc. But I don't post many videos about it because Star Wars was never one of my core fandoms growing up, and I feel that people who post a lot of the criticisms or analyses of it, at least the very passionate ones, and the bulk of them should be people who the franchise means a great deal to in terms of their identity and such, and that just hasn't been quite the case for me. I always feel a bit insulted when I hear somebody who just has sort of a passing interest in Superman post some heavy critical analysis about this is what's important and not important about the character and so forth. I just think, wow, you need to be more invested before you make those statements. So that's why I stayed away from it for the most part. I did want to talk about today one aspect of Star Wars that I hear a lot of people saying, because I think it pertains to mythology in general and hero stories in general, which is what this channel is all about. So I'm not a fan of The Last Jedi. I don't enjoy the deconstruction of that wonderful hero's journey story arc that the franchise was built on. I know that's why a lot of people do like The Last Jedi, but that's why I was turned off from it. I had never read the novels, the extended universe, before, again, because Star Wars was just never on my radar as something I would really wanted to obsess over. But after The Last Jedi, and I realized that they were really trying to wrap up and end those original characters' storylines and move on to other things, I still wanted to spend time with those characters, so I did go back and start reading the Star Wars Extended Universe, and I am on the third book now of the Thrawn trilogy and the Timothy Zahn works that began it all, and it's amazing. It picks up in the same tone and themes. It just feels like a natural extension of that original trilogy. I hear a lot of people just dismiss the books though because they say that's not canon. It's not canon, so I'm not going to read those because it's not canon. Or yeah, but you know, the movies, they're canon. This just really baffles me how unquestioningly people seem to stand upon this phrase. What is canon? I think that's an important question that is worth asking. Basically what they're saying is that that's not a story that the corporate entities that own the copyright to Star Wars have accepted as main continuity. And that's just a silly stipulation, it really is. I can understand back when George Lucas still owned all of the rights and he was still the great auteur of this universe and these stories, and people wanted to hear more of what he had to say about these stories and characters that he created. That holds a bit of weight there. But especially now, even after George Lucas began putting out stories that weren't as well received by fans in general, and especially now that he sold all of the rights to Disney and they're trying to take it into an entirely new direction, who cares about canon? What does that even mean anymore? That's just completely irrelevant now. You follow the stories about the characters that you're interested in, and you follow the type of stories that you want to hear. That's always been the nature of mythology. Stories are told and retold, and new stories are told about the same characters, and the ones that survive are the ones that the people accept. The people judge these stories, and they decide what's canon and continuity, not some company that just happens to own the copyright. And I say this a lot about superheroes in general. All kinds of boneheaded decisions have been made in the comics over the years, but the public decides ultimately which one of those decisions or changes or twists or reveals or whatnot makes it into the public consciousness, because they're the ones that accept it. They're the ones that keep talking about it or remember it fondly and keep bringing it up. And ultimately, it's a business, so the companies have to give the public, for the most part, what they're going to pay for. It's a long process. It takes a while because of the capitalist construct that it takes place in, but that's simply the way it is. It happened much more fluidly when stories were simply told and retold and published at a whim. But it's still the case now. There's also a literary interpretation debate that plays into this, and that's whether the authorial intent or the reader interpretation is more important. And this is a question and a debate that's been going on for a while, and different theorists or different critics will have their own place on this argument. Ultimately, both sides are important. You have to understand and take into some account what the author intends a work, but at the same time, It's no longer the author's work once they write it and it's in your hands to read it. You are now engaging with that work. Whether you're reading something or watching it or whatever, you are making sense. They've done their best. The authors or filmmakers or whatever, they have put everything they wanted to in the film, and they have tried to connect the dots in the way that they want you to perceive them as, and done all of that. But they're done after that. I always laugh at these directors or authors who come out after the fact and try to direct people in how to perceive and what to think of their movie or book or story, and this is really what that meant when this happened. No, your job's done. If you didn't do that and make all of that clear beforehand, then it's far too late to come in and do it now. So there is a balance between authorial intent and reader interpretation. So even concerning George Lucas's intent with the characters and story, when he even still owned the rights, there was already a case to be made for people who simply said, this is what these characters mean to me, and this is what I see the story, and this is how it ties in. Now, of course, you can't just pick something off the wall and say that Star Wars is secretly a metaphor about milkmen or something like that. I mean, you have to have a reason. There has to be a case to be made in an actual interpretation, not just chosen randomness. But if you've got a good reader's interpretation, then that's got its own validity just by merit of being your reader's interpretation. And it shouldn't be just dismissed because it's not canon. It's not canon. That's just become a meaningless phrase, especially nowadays with the specific example of Star Wars. Again, this video isn't to condemn any films one over the other or whatever. I'm not really getting in that debate because, as I said again, I'm not one of the die-hard fans, but I make no secret of where I stand on it, but it's not an issue that I'm willing to die on, so to speak. I like what I like concerning it, but I do think these issues of what is canon and authorial intent versus reader interpretation, those kinds of things play directly into the purpose and the focus of my channel. So I thought it was worth mentioning, and might as well mention it on May the 4th, even though this video will most likely be posted the 5th. Still timely. So, happy May the 4th if that's something you celebrate, however you celebrate it, whether you're enjoying the new stuff or like me, you enjoy the classics. And I do recommend those extended universe novels to anybody, even if you love the new movies. They're still really good, well-told stories. I mean, Timothy Zahn knew his stuff. Again, I'm only on his final book in the trilogy, so I have a ways to go. I know a lot of Star Wars fans have read them all and can speak a lot more authoritatively on the subject, but I'm quite impressed, so I highly recommend that. Also want to direct your attention to my new Patreon. I have a link down below. I finally prepared it just so, and the tiers are $1 and $2 a month, depending on what you'd like. There are opportunities to suggest videos and focuses for my analyses and to vote on them. There will be all kinds of patron-only content and so forth, giveaways. So do please check that link out, and if you're able and so disposed, I would love to have you as a patron and continue this community we have going here. We'll be back soon for a Masters of the Universe video. I want to talk about some of the reveals and the rumors being released about the film. Until then, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.